Hey everyone, Matron here, bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary, this time Game 2 in the Best of 3 series of the Blizzcon 2010 Winners Bracket Finals, as we have NEXGenius, the blue Protoss, spawning against Loner, the red Terran. The map will be Metalopolis. The previous game was played on Xel'Naga Caverns. Loner tried a timing attack with mostly Marines as Stim finished, and tried to push out against NEXGenius, who had thrown down an early expansion and was able to get up a number of gateway units to fend off that attack by Loner. NEXGenius was then able to just macro up, tech a little bit higher, 2 Colossi, and breeze through the MMM ball that Loner was developing. So we'll see whether this game plays out the same way or a little bit different. We are on a 4-player map, so we could see a bit more of a macro game. We also are on these close spawn positions by air, so one or both players may try some sort of air attack. Loner could come in with an early Banshee with Cloak. NEXGenius could try a Void Ray harass. NEXGenius did throw down the 13 gateway in the previous game, this time going for the 12 gateway. A little bit faster, going to let him get down that cybernetic score just a hair faster and start teching up. See both players sending out their initial scouts in the totally wrong direction, so they will both find that they're in the close spawn positions by air, and we'll see how that affects each player's strategy as the game moves forward. Both players getting up their first gas at this point. We'll see which player goes for that second gas first once they do see that these spawn positions. Great pylon placement by NEXGenius here is going to be able to see any sort of approaching pressure by Loner. He can also warp down units closer to Loner's base. He can reinforce any sort of attack as he pushes out with units. We do see that cybernetic score going down right away as soon as that gateway finishes, so NEXGenius will be able to tech up just as soon as the cybernetic score is complete. Loner is getting out a few early Marines. Last time he just did the 1 Marine before getting up 2 barracks with the tech lab and reactor. So this time favoring a few more Marines early on. We may see some more early pressure. So we do see the SCV from Loner in NEXGenius's base. He wants to see how many gas NEXGenius is on, and right now he's going to be on 2. So that's going to give away that NEXGenius is going to go for a little bit higher tech. So you see most Protoss won't be on the second gas if they're just going for a standard 3 or 4 gate. So NEXGenius just a little bit early in all these buildings. We'll see what sort of tech he does favor. Last game went for those Colossi. So we see a few Marines out for Loner at this point. He's still pumping Marines, going to be 4 Marines out, and now he may be moving out with these Marines, or at least taking down this Menk statue. Maybe a little bit frustrated after the first loss. He does get down the factory, and out comes a second barracks as well. Looks like he's pushing with an early Hellion, so a number of Marines, 4 Marines, and a Hellion will be out on the field shortly for the Terran player. NEXGenius does have 1 Stalker at the moment, getting a second out as well. Positioning them, they're going to be able to take shots at any approaching units if Loner does not approach from the far side of the road. We do see a Stargate about halfway complete for NEXGenius, and getting up a second gateway as well, so we could possibly see some Phoenix play, maybe a Void Ray in this position. We throw up the production tab, both players just crazy busy in their base. We do have a starport finishing for Loner as he's about to finish up his second barracks as well. So we are going to see a medevac come out, possibly some early pressure with these Marines. He is not researching Stim or any sort of barracks upgrades right now. He does have that tech lab on the factory. You wonder if he's going to go for a pre-igniter with those Hellions, perhaps get siege mode for some tanks later on. Not really sure what this tech lab's doing right now. He may have prepared this tech lab for the starport. We will have to see, as Banshees could come into play as well. Looks like instead he's going to get out another Viking. This tech lab goes unused for the moment. Loner is throwing up a bunker. Looks like the first Void Ray is making its way over for NEXGenius. He's going to try to get a charge on this. Void Ray is weak to Marines unless it gets a charge up. So we do see the Void Ray coming in, going to target this starport, and he needs to get out of here before these Marines come in. They can focus down this Void Ray. He needs to micro nicely here. He's going to try to not lose any HP. Just going to work and take a few pot shots at these units, take that medevac down just a little bit, and then retreat as soon as he takes HP damage. He's going to let his shields recharge here and possibly harass again. We have a second Void Ray on the way. It looks like Loner in response is going to go for a command center. So he may feel like he has time with these Vikings, and he may be able to fend off this Void Ray harass. So we see the Marines moving in, trying to take down the Void Rays. Void Rays unable to get charge on these Marines. They just do not have enough HP. And the medevac able to heal the Marines. So NEXGenius is going to have to figure out some way to use these Void Rays. He's already invested in the Stargate and in the Void Rays. Needs to wait for these shields. He's positioning the Void Ray with more shields in the front to take the first shots. He's going to try to charge up on the starport, at least do a little bit of damage. He was able to kill the one Viking, so the Vikings are not going to be a problem if he can keep their numbers under control. Vikings with a range of 9, Void Rays just with that range of 6. So the Viking can take shots at these Void Rays as long as it micros well. We do see NEXGenius is throwing down his own expansion. Loner has gotten this command center up. We'll see if he lands it soon. Do see this Viking down here trying to take more shots at these Void Rays, able to take down the shields of one of the Void Rays, and now trying to micro away. We may get a charge up here, as this Viking is just not as fast, and the Viking is going to go down. So Loner is losing the air advantage here. He needs to keep those Vikings back until he can get a number of them up. NEXGenius has stopped Void Ray production at just those 2. Look, NEXGenius does have command of this tower, so he's able to make it over into his opponent's base and see everything there. He does not know about this army yet, though. So that's a nice size of Marines, Marauders, and a medevac. As we see NEXGenius now getting up this robotics facility, and his first observer is out on the field. He's going to go over and see what Loner has. A Phoenix now coming. The Phoenix is going to be able to take on those Vikings, as the Vikings are light units. In come the 2 Void Rays, again taking down another Viking. These Void Rays can keep this charge. So NEXGenius just doing a little bit of harass with these Void Rays. It looks like his overall plan is to tech into a robotics bay, as he is getting that up now, and maybe going for Colossi again against the Marines. He's got a nice size army of mostly gateway units here. These Void Rays are just going to be cream or icing on top of the cake for the Protoss player. Getting up another 2 gas, as that is going to help him fund these Colossi once the robotics bay does finish. We see Loner finally is getting out the concussive shell. He does have stim, so he could move out with this army. NEXGenius has got an eye on him this entire time, though. See if Loner is able to see those ripples and perhaps get a good scan on this observer. As Loner does move out, it looks like these Void Rays are going to move in, take down another Viking, and come in for a harass. So NEXGenius is controlling the movement of Loner's army here. He's going to take away that aggression Loner's trying to place on him, just using these Void Rays to harass. Loner was forced to pick up a bunch of Marines there and try to drop them back into his main. Now he's going to move out once again. He's going to be able to see this pylon, perhaps take it out. The air units do give him sight. That's one of the disadvantages of placing pylons around the edge of your base as Protoss on this map. So they are easy to pick off. The NEXGenius is preparing a pylon farm over at his possible 3rd base. We do see this observer still has a bead on the Marine Marauder medevac army, as Loner is just macroing up right now. If he can get enough of these units, he's going to be able to take down any Void Ray harass very easily, as the first Colossus is out on the field for NEXGenius. He is getting that Thermal Lance upgrade as well as a second Colossus. If we look at the army tab for both players, 3,500 to 3,200, but NEXGenius does have a little bit of an advantage in the tech. He's got a few Void Rays, though one is very low on health, and a Colossus with a second one on the way. Loner is going to move out here, as this observer is still following along. He's got a number of Vikings. He may be able to deal with these Colossi unless NEXGenius is able to get up enough of them. Stalker count not very high in this army, so the Vikings are going to be quite powerful against these Colossi. Mostly Zealots. We do not have Zealot charge though. So unless we see some great force fields, Loner can kite with these Marines and take down a number of the units of our Protoss player. Especially these Colossus can be very weak against the Vikings. As we see more and more Marines and Marauders coming out for Loner, we do see some great force fields here, trapping a number of units, but good micro by Loner, going around this force fields, trying to do some kiting here. More force fields coming, trapping those Marines in front. Zealots are moving in for the kill. As we see a relatively weak, relatively even in exchange here of units. Loner perhaps did come down in the losing end of that battle, so he's going to have to macro up right away as NEXGenius is at his front door, possibly able to take the series right here, 2-0. These Colossi are going to be throwing down these force fields. Out come the SCVs to try to tank a little bit of damage for these Marines and Marauders. The Colossi don't care who they're attacking, as they do have that AoE attack. They'll take down all those SCVs as well. We see those Void Rays finally going down, a little bit of missed micro on the part of NEXGenius, as the Vikings are just too much for those Void Rays, and they may prove too much for these Colossi as well, as the Viking count is growing. We're up to 6 Vikings for Loner. Just the 3 Colossi right now for NEXGenius, and only 9 Stalkers. They are not going to be able to take down those Vikings fast enough, especially without Blink. We do see NEXGenius is getting up this 3rd expansion, throwing down a Forge as well, possibly for some upgrades here. Little late to be upgrading your army 15 minutes into the game. Could have used those upgrades in that exchange there earlier. Just 1, maybe 2 upgrades on weapons would have made these Colossi a lot more powerful, could have taken down the Marines and Marauders much more effectively, and perhaps pushed in for the win. See both players keeping their resources very low, especially off 2 and 3 bases. NEXGenius is preparing this forward pylon, going to reinforce his army from this proxy pylon. In come the Colossi, a little too close to the front. As we see the Vikings are ahead now. 8 Vikings on the field. That's going to be too many for these Stalkers, and if the Vikings do a good job of taking down these Colossi, this game may swing in Loner's favor. NEXGenius needs to warp in more Stalkers right now. He needs to cut Colossi production. 5 is plenty. He needs more Stalkers to take down these Vikings. Just too many. 12 Vikings now. These Zealots now with charge going to be able to take on these Marines and Marauders, keep them away from the Colossi, but the Vikings are just going to do work on these Colossi. 1 goes down, a second one about to be focused down. Down goes the 2nd Colossi. 3 Colossi, 4 Colossi down. The 5th one, lone man standing, now goes down, and the Marines and Marauders are just able to rip apart those Zealots and finally chasing down these Stalkers. Loner does have the decisive advantage in that encounter, as well as in the army tab, 4,800 to 1,100. NEXGenius is going to have to pull out some sort of miracle if he wants to keep alive in this game. Else he's going to even up the series. Loner is 1-1, and it'll be forced to play a game 3. So we see Loner is getting a scan in here, wants to make sure he's not walking into any surprises. Vikings out in front, going to take down any sort of Colossus pressure. And now just picking off structures. Pylons going down, as well as some gateways. He is going to find this Colossus here. Going to be focused down by these Marauders. 2nd Colossus on the right, taken down by those Vikings, as we see Loner moving in for the kill, just taking on all comers at this point. Vikings landing, adding insult to injury, and NEXGenius has to GG. So Loner was able to come back in this series, force a game 3, as we will move on to game 3 of the best of 3 matchup between these 2 players in the Blizzard 2010 Invitational Winners Bracket Final. The winner of this series will move on to the Grand Finals. The loser will have to go to the Consolation Bracket and earn a spot in the Grand Finals. So we'll see game 3 in just a moment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.